The cameras flash. The crowd outside the barricades is, like, practically vibrating with anticipation. And inside, the venue has frozen into this highly orchestrated tableau of power and fame.
Oh, I can picture it perfectly, the tension in the air.
Right, because it is July 3rd, 2026 at Madison Square Garden in New York City. 1,000 of the most influential people on Earth have gathered for what is essentially the royal wedding of American pop culture. Taylor Swift marrying Travis Kelce.
I mean, we are talking about a guest list that basically doubles as the GDP for a small nation, you know?
Exactly. Welcome to StarScope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today we have a story that is just, well, it's a massive puzzle.
It really is. Today we are doing a deep dive into a headline that's making the rounds everywhere. The headline is, Jaime King finally reveals where she stands with Taylor Swift.
Which is such a loaded headline when you actually know the context of the last few years.
Oh, completely. Because, when you have an event like this Madison Square Garden wedding, the most revealing detail isn't usually who made the cut. It is who was conspicuously scrubbed from the guest list.
Right, the empty chairs. The empty chairs tell the real story.
Yeah, so today we are analyzing a stack of recent celebrity news reports, some pretty heavy legal custody filings, and very carefully worded PR statements surrounding this wedding. Our goal here is to unpack the invisible and honestly kind of ruthless boundaries of Hollywood's inner circles.
It's fascinating, right? Like looking at what happens when the polished veneer of a high-profile friendship just collides with the messy, painful realities of addiction, legal battles, and, personal freefall.
And for you listening, it is a sociological case study. How does a person, especially someone whose personal brand is a billion-dollar global economy, navigate a friend's downward spiral? At what point does a supportive bond turn into an unacceptable corporate liability?
That is the billion-dollar question, literally.
So let's start with the anomaly that set this whole investigation into motion. The wedding party itself. Travis's brother, Jason Kelce, is there, and his 4 daughters are actively participating in the ceremony as flower girls.
Which, by the way, establishes a very clear precedent for the event. Children are welcome. They are integrated into the celebration.
Exactly. Which makes the absence of Taylor's 10-year-old godson, Leo, just, well, impossible to ignore.
Oh, 100%. Because Leo's mother is the actress and model Jaime King, who for the better part of a decade was known as one of Taylor's absolute closest confidants.
Right. And the moment that absence was noted by the press, you could practically hear the gears of the Hollywood PR machine just grinding into motion. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and publicists, they abhor an unexplained absence at a major cultural event.
They cannot stand it. Jaime King's team immediately released a statement to Page 6 to control the narrative, and honestly, it functions as a masterclass in deflection.
It really does. I had the text of the statement right here, and we need to look at the actual architecture of these sentences because it's wild. The publicist states, quote, "The reason Jaime chose Taylor as Leo Thames' godmother is that they both believe that being a godmother is a deeply personal and spiritual commitment that has nothing to do with public appearances."
Okay, notice the linguistic sleight of hand there. It's so subtle, but so effective.
Wait, break that down for us. What are they doing?
So, this statement fundamentally reclassifies a wedding. A wedding is typically understood as a personal milestone, right? A gathering of loved ones. But the publicist frames it strictly as a public appearance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
By doing that, they build a firewall. They are telling the public that you cannot measure the health of this deeply personal spiritual relationship by looking at who attended this highly publicized commercial event.
That is a brilliant bit of spin. But it completely falls apart the second you read the next sentence.
Oh, absolutely.
The statement continues, quote, "Leo Thames is still too young for a large adult wedding celebration. But he and his mother were able to joyfully celebrate Taylor and Kelce's marriage in his own very special, age-appropriate way during his summer break."
It's just so transparent.
It is. Looking at this, I am immediately struck by how much this mirrors the polite fictions we use in our everyday lives,
How do you mean, like in a normal friendship?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the corporate equivalent of an ousted CEO putting out a press release saying they're, stepping down to spend more time with their family.
Right, right.
Or, on a more relatable level, it's like when you have a toxic friend and you slowly phase them out by constantly texting, "I'm just so overwhelmed with work right now, but let's grab coffee soon." You have zero intention of grabbing coffee.
No intention at all.
You are using a polite, socially acceptable shield. In this case, he's too young to mask a severely fractured relationship between the adults. Because, I mean, if Jason Kelce's young daughters are tossing petals, a 10-year-old is absolutely not too young to sit in a pew.
The mechanics of that excuse are completely transparent if you know the context. And the reality, which is verified across our sources, is that Taylor Swift and Jaime King currently have no regular contact.
Wow, none at all.
None. The language used by insiders is very, very deliberate. They say they are not close anymore, but they always ensure the phrase, "there is still love there," is appended to every single report.
Still love there. That is such a specific, calculated phrase, isn't it?
Totally.
It means the bridge hasn't been dynamited, but it is currently closed for repairs.
Yeah.
And you are definitely not getting an invitation to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
But to understand the mechanics of this boundary, we have to look at the history. Because the foundation of this friendship was incredibly solid.
It really was. I mean, they met back in 2014 at a Golden Globes party and became deeply enmeshed in each other's lives. James' then-husband, Kyle Newman, even directed Taylor's music video for Style in 2015.
Which was a massive era for her.
Huge. So this wasn't just a superficial red carpet acquaintance. They functioned like family.
Which makes the current reality so heavy. When you read through the court documents and the custody updates from the past few years, you realize this isn't some petty falling out over a misunderstood text message.
No, not at all.
It is a slow-motion collapse.
Yeah.
Jaime King has been locked in a devastatingly toxic divorce and custody battle with Kyle Newman. And the details, they just force you to pause and sit with the human tragedy of it all.
The human element is profound, and it's deeply sad. King lost sole physical custody of her sons, James, who is 11, and Leo, the godson, who is 9.
Just heartbreaking.
Yeah. The court awarded primary custody to Kyle Newman after King failed to complete a court-ordered rehabilitation program. We're looking at a timeline stemming back to 2020, involving struggles with addiction, mandatory parenting programs, and counseling.
The reality of her day-to-day life right now is staggering. According to the filings, she is fighting just to get unsupervised visits with her own children. The court has her restricted to 2 hours on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons and 20-minute supervised FaceTime calls. When you factor in the recent lawsuit and eviction by her Los Angeles landlord over unpaid rent, even though she claims it was resolved privately, you are looking at a life in absolute freefall.
And this is exactly where the psychology of boundary setting intersects with the demands of intense fame. If you are Taylor Swift, living a life that is heavily scrutinized, heavily monetized, and tightly controlled, well, a friendship with someone experiencing this level of chaotic instability becomes an emotional and logistical minefield.
There is a terrible sociology to this kind of collateral damage, isn't there?
Oh, but definitely.
If you, as a listener, have ever had a family member or a close friend go through a highly destructive spiral, whether it's addiction or a toxic divorce, you know this feeling. You desperately want to maintain a relationship with the child, to be a safe harbor for them. But navigating the parent requires you to compromise your own peace.
Yeah, and multiple reports emphasize that Swift still takes her role as godmother very seriously. She continues to send gifts for Leo's birthday. The mechanism of her support has just shifted.
Right, she hasn't abandoned the child. She has quarantined herself from the blast radius of the mother's life.
That's a great way to put it. She is loving the child from a safe, highly regulated distance.
But the architecture of this boundary setting gets even more fascinating when you realize Jaime King is not an isolated incident. And that is not even the wildest part of this guest list drama.
No, it is not.
If this were purely about the tragedy of a dying, we could view it as a singular, painful situation. But when you look at the rest of the missing faces on July 3rd, a broader pattern emerges.
Yes.
If you are loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you are subscribed because we have got even crazier stories ahead, and this next part is huge. The liability Swift is avoiding isn't just emotional, it's financial and reputational.
We are shifting from personal instability to legal liability here. Because the other glaring omission from the Madison Square Garden guest list is Blake Lively, alongside Ryan Reynolds and their 4 children, Inez, Olin, James, and Betty.
And wait, all 4 of those children are also Taylor's godchildren, right?
Every single one of them.
When I was reading through the context for this, the sheer scale of the financial risks surrounding Lively stood out. This distance stems from a massive $400 million lawsuit filed by Justin Baldoni against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds.
It is a staggering amount of money.
And the critical mechanism here isn't just that her friends are being sued, it is that Taylor Swift's name surfaced in the legal dispute. There were leaked texts allegedly showing the strain, basically dragging Swift's brand into the discovery phase of a massive fraud suit.
And this is where we have to view Swift's inner circle through a strictly economic lens. A billion-dollar personal brand operates like a Fortune 500 company. When two massive entities merge their public lives, like Swift and Kelce stepping into a highly visible marriage, their teams essentially perform corporate due diligence on their associations.
It is the due diligence of a guest list.
Precisely. If an asset, and in this case a high-profile friend, is carrying unacceptable legal, financial, or reputational debt, well, that asset is quietly divested from the public-facing portfolio.
Divested. Wow.
Yeah. Proximity to a $400 million lawsuit isn't just an uncomfortable conversation over dinner, it is a direct threat to the brand's ecosystem.
This brings up a really tough ethical question, though, and I think it applies to anyone, famous or not. We all understand the concept of protecting our peace, right? We know boundaries are healthy.
Sure.
But at what point does the ruthless protection of your own peace and the curation of your public image bleed into abandoning the people you love when they are in their darkest moments? Like when they are in legal or personal freefall?
The psychological consensus on this is complex, but it's clear. You cannot act as a lifeguard if the person drowning is going to pull you under the water with them.
That makes sense.
But the celebrity aspect just amplifies this 1,000 times. Setting a boundary like choosing not to invite someone to a highly publicized wedding where their mere presence or their legal baggage would hijack the headline is often categorized as an absence of love by the public.
Right. Everyone assumes it's a feud.
Exactly. But in reality, it is simply a refusal to let the chaos cross the threshold of your new life.
Which makes Jaime King's current public stance so intriguing. Because if you look at the YouTube headlines and the recent entertainment interviews, the narrative is all about how Jaime King finally reveals where she stands with Taylor Swift.
Right, despite everything.
Despite the snub, despite the eviction, despite the brutal custody battle, she is publicly singing Swift's praises.
Oh, she is leaning all the way in. According to recent interviews, King is newly engaged to Austin Sosa. She has stated she is focusing entirely on her kids rather than her own wedding planning. But when she was asked specifically about Taylor's wedding, she didn't deflect. She publicly stated she is, quote, effing stoked for her, emphasizing that Travis Kelce is, quote, her person.
Let's analyze the mechanics of that move.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, you could look at that and say, wow, what a display of genuine, mature grace.
Yeah, it sounds lovely.
It shows that you can drift apart from someone, acknowledge your own struggles, be hurt by an exclusion, and still genuinely root for their happiness from afar. You can be stoked for someone without needing a front row seat. And I think that's a beautiful, healthy takeaway for anyone navigating a faded friendship.
It is a very healthy perspective. But in the ecosystem of fame, human emotion and strategic survival are almost always intertwined.
Yeah, I have to apply a slightly cynical lens to this. I mean, she is talking to the entertainment press. She knows Swift's team monitors every mention of her name.
Without a doubt.
Is this vocal enthusiasm just a strategic olive branch? Like, is it the ultimate kill them with kindness strategy to keep the door wedged open just a crack?
I think it functions perfectly as both. It is entirely possible that Jaime King holds deep, genuine love for her friend and is thrilled she found a supportive partner. But it is simultaneously true that burning a bridge with the most powerful woman in the entertainment industry is professional suicide.
You do not want to cross that line.
Exactly. You do not want to be the subject of a revenge narrative, and you definitely do not want to be seen as the bitter, exiled friend.
By taking the high road so publicly, she preserves her own dignity. She avoids a messy, headline-grabbing feud that would only further complicate her custody battles. And honestly, she leaves a lifeline intact.
She does. As that insider noted to Page 6, King made Taylor her son's godmother for a reason, and the intent to reconnect is explicitly there.
It is a survival tactic wrapped in genuine affection. And it forces us to look past the PR spin, the lawsuits, and the boundary setting to the people who actually bear the weight of these fractured relationships.
The kids.
The kids. You have Leo, you have Inez, Olin, James, and Betty. And this leaves us with a truly fascinating concept to ponder. And by the way, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because we love getting into these deeper themes. The role of a godparent is an ancient tradition. Historically, the mechanism of a godparent was designed to provide a safety net, someone to step in and raise the child if the parents were absent or incapable.
But the practical application has completely shifted in modern secular society. It has morphed into a symbolic honor. It is basically the highest title you can bestow upon an adult best friend to cement them into your family structure.
Which raises a critical question for you to mull over after we wrap up today.
Yeah.
Is the bond of a modern godparent a direct, unbreakable tie to the child themselves? Or is it, in reality, entirely dependent on maintaining a healthy, ongoing relationship with that child's parents?
That is the crux of it. We like to think of these spiritual commitments as permanent, immune to adult drama. But the empty chairs at Madison Square Garden suggest otherwise.
When the adult friendship dies, when the parents fracture the relationship through $400 million lawsuits, or devastating addiction, or simply the slow drift of time, can the godparent relationship truly survive?
It's hard to say.
Can you be a meaningful, present figure in a 9-year-old's life when you cannot even safely be in the same room as their mother? Or does the child just become another casualty, another piece of collateral damage in the quiet corporate restructuring of an adult friendship? It's a heavy realization about the limits of our commitments.
It really is.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining. Till next time.